and I'm going to be talking about something today that I had the idea to write about maybe at the beginning of the year, just because I've just been seeing so much in social media and I've been experimenting a lot with social media. I've learned a ton about it, the way I've been using it, and then right under my feet, things have changed a lot. So you're probably out there, if you're watching this video, those of you who are here, social media is just kind of one of those necessary things of our times, right? Many would call it a necessary evil, right? As far as how much time we have to spend, how much, it seems so simple. Just post, just talk about the stuff that you like, and then people find you, right? It used to be kind of that simple, but we're going to talk about why things are different now. So this is my talk, social media for creative entrepreneurs. And I want to start with why this talk, like, why did I decide to do this? Well, first I'll talk about my background. See, my slides just be changing orders on me. So who am I? My name's Keith Hayden. I put this slick picture of myself. It's just so slick. I just look like, the side profile and everything. You only get married once, so you gotta do it big. I'm a digital creator. It's very difficult to classify myself because I feel like a lot of people want to put you in a box, and I definitely am one of those who's, my background is kind of crazy. It's spans multiple different niches and career fields, and it's just kind of crazy. But where I've settled on now is digital creator. You probably know me best from my sci-fi podcast, Serious Eliminate, that I post about all the time. And yeah, I've had a lot of fun creating that. I've been creating it for about the past 3 years now. But I started as a writer. I was a humble writer, and I just started posting Medium articles back in 2017. So it's been a minute now. But since that time, I've experimented in tons of different social media backgrounds. I've vlogged, I've blogged, I've done the whole, guru thing, like trying to be a guru. Thankfully, I let that part go. I've done TikTok, I've done Twitter, I've done a lot of different experiments, and I'm by no means big on any of these platforms. And I don't think that really necessitates, you don't have to be big to have studied this and been a student of social media like I have, basically. Because in that time, I've moved in and out of so many different niches: music, coding, tech, AI is the latest one. And I've learned a lot about what it means to move in these different communities and what works and what doesn't work. I don't know everything, of course, but I've seen a lot in my time, from all the stuff you can see that I've published there: books, blogs, podcasts, videos, music. It just goes on and on. The list is longer than that. So this is just kind of my background and why I'm here talking about this, because social media is like, as I was saying in the beginning, it is to us what print and the newspaper and television previously was in the 20th century. I mean, those were big. That was, if you wanted to you had a product or you had a message, you wanted to get it in front of people, you got a newspaper, you got on TV. Now you get on social media, and everybody knows that. And what's crazy about social media is, unlike print and TV, it is always with you. Those things feel like you could shut them off. You could put the newspaper down, you turn the TV off, and TV stuck at home. Now the TV is literally in your pocket all the time, and it can access any channel, anything, anywhere, anytime in the world. It's crazy, the scale of this thing. But as I said, I've seen this, what was social media, what it used to be. And I'm a little bit older, so I've been around for, traditional social media. I've seen kind of the evolution, from the chat rooms, and we'll talk about some of the evolution of it. But this acceleration of AI, yo, bro, what's up, man? My brother Ajani has just walked to the room. He's still connecting, but what's up, bro? I love you. Glad you're here, man. Thanks for supporting me. Your baby brother. So acceleration of AI, of course, everybody knows about AI. 2023 is the year of the AI mainstream explosion, right? ChatGPT, Dolly, the Midjourney, these have become household names in this year. But it's changing, it's very quickly changing social media as we know it. And so that's one of the reasons why I get this talk. Talk about a mental model shift that I've taken when it comes to social media, and that maybe that might help you if you're still thinking of, oh, it's that place where people go to yell at each other about politics and things like that. It's that, and it's a lot more too. So we'll talk about that. And then really, that's why I wanted to aim this at creative entrepreneurs, because we're the little guys and girls just trying to run our humble business. We have a small podcast and we want people to listen to it. We have a small business and we offer a consulting service and you want to find the right people for your service. It's become increasingly difficult to do that simple thing with the way social media is now. So that's why I've come and put together this kind of strategies and this talk to talk about social media. So feel free to ask questions if you, I just checked the chat. Appreciate, yeah, the pic. Yeah, yeah, it's clean. It's like, they were like, man, is that Idris Elba? Black James Bond? No. Anyway, all right. How it used to be. The simple days, cue the sepia tone and the grainy black and white film, right? 1990s, 2020 to 2020, pretty much, right? Social media was just small communities, AOL chat, anyone? Anybody remember back in the day? Saying, right? Yeah, that was the stuff. MySpace, old Facebook, poking people, being annoying, that type of stuff. User-directed content. That was back in the day. Pretty much, I can even flash back to 10 years ago in around 2013, 2014, that time frame. People were still, when I thought of Facebook, hey, that's where I went to go talk to mama. That's where I'm going to talk to my cousin or, that homie from high school or whatever. That was what it was. Free, but at the cost of personal data. We all know this now. We all accept it. It's just kind of, it is what it is. It used to be a big scandal, but now it's like, how many times do you click access your Gmail, log in through Gmail? I mean, come on. Are you going to set a password for every one of these things that you sign up for? Of course not. You go for the quick one where they can siphon your data and all that stuff. This is the big one down in the corner, though. Social media used to be siloed. You went to YouTube for video. You went to Facebook for friends. You went to LinkedIn if you wanted to get a job for a business. As we'll see, that has changed. And maybe you already know this, but maybe you don't. Maybe you're like, hey, Instagram is where I go get photos. Snapchat is that thing that I don't understand that my kids use or that my little cousin uses. We'll talk about that. Doing business wasn't the main focus. It was connection. It was people, and it was about other things too. But I remember the Facebook of the old days where there were no business pages, where they were only community pages and club pages and things like that. And that was what we did with social media. I'm, of course, presenting it in this kind of, this innocent tone. Of course, we know social media has had its challenges, but what it's evolved into today, how it is now, social media has basically become a business. It's evolved. It's grown up, so to speak. And I've seen that. Maybe you've seen that in the recently. Of course, Twitter is probably the biggest one in the news. Elon Musk draws a lot of headlines and things like that for many different reasons. But yeah, Twitter is pretty much the first one to say, hey, this has to be a business now. It can't just be about letting people use this platform for free, because there are people like me, and maybe you've benefited from the network effect of Twitter. You've had maybe a tweet go a little bit viral, to where you've had somebody that's 2 or 3 levels removed from you who has a lot of influence and clout retweet your stuff or things like that. We've all kind of had that moment, right? I had Naval. He's this Naval Ravikant. He actually retweeted one of my tweets last year. We all have that story, right? The famous person that's got to look at your stuff, right? That's what Twitter allows. And that's very powerful, depending on what you are selling, what you are talking about. That could be hugely powerful. That could be a game changer. It could change overnight. And we've seen people go viral and somebody big retweets their stuff, or they like it, or they comment, and then boom, they're off to the races. That's kind of the holy grail. But most people, that doesn't happen. But point is, you're getting a lot of value, especially as a creative entrepreneur, out of these platforms. And so Twitter has been the first one to say, hey, that value is big. It has monetary value as well. So you're going to have to pay for that if you want to actually have access to that feature. Algorithmic directed content. Of course, we all know the shadowy algorithms in the background. They've been there for a while, actually, but now, of course, with AI in the news and everybody, I think people are more aware that, hey, it's not people curating this stuff anymore. It's not so-and-so's wedding or the baby shower or the graduations that are showing up on your feed. It's based on, your preferences and data and all these big things that are coming together to what the end product is, what you see in front of you. And so that's very different. And then this is the big one. Maybe you didn't know. Each platform has kind of become a complete ecosystem in itself. And this is one of the reasons why I want to have this talk, because I think that's a mentality shift that a lot of people haven't made yet. They still think of YouTube as the video platform. Did you know YouTube does podcasts? Did you know YouTube, you can post things on YouTube? YouTube is actually a very good place to build a full out community if video is a big part of your business. Did you know LinkedIn has audio spaces, a la Twitter spaces? That's a new feature. These are things that are popping up. Substack just launched notes a couple of weeks ago. That is very much like a Twitter-esque type of thing. So point is, these platforms are basically becoming very homogenous. You can do the same things on all of them. And the end result is they want to keep you in that platform. They don't want to see YouTube links on Twitter. They would rather not. They'd rather you just upload the video to Twitter. They don't want to see a TikTok on Facebook stories or Facebook Reels or whatever, Facebook video. They'd rather you just upload it natively to Facebook. So this is kind of the mentality shift that I've had to make, that maybe this talk will help you make, is that you need to think of each platform as its own place, not as, okay, my video links from Twitter, my LinkedIn, my resume. No, they can all do, or they will shortly all be able to do the same things. And it's up to you to decide where the best place is for your message, product, service, whatever you're trying to get people to find. And yeah, I talked about how they want you to pay for creator features, and everybody else, it's free. That user-generated content is still there. It's just because the algorithm, it's being filtered through the algorithm, people aren't seeing it as much. And that can be a challenge, right? And so brings me to the two sides of social. I talk about this, and this is kind of a framework or a mindset that I've come up with in the past few years, because this is the people that say, oh, social media is just where people go to yell at each other and it's toxic and da. There's definitely that side of social media. And I think that's everybody's entry point into social media. When you first try out any platform, even today with all the algorithms, the platform doesn't know you. So one of the platforms that I haven't really experimented with much is Snapchat. So let's say I decide to make a Snapchat today. It's not going to know what to serve me. So it's probably going to make me follow, like, what are my interests? So it's going to try and assess, and it's going to try and make me follow certain people that are big in that interest. And then I'll start being able to post my own snaps or whatever. And in that process, it will learn about me. And then I will be introduced to the consumer side first, because they want to keep me on the platform first. Then after you've started posting a while, you slowly get acquainted with the creator side. So eventually you'll find yourself away from the casual posts and the shit posters and the people that are just on there, talking, and they're trying to inflame things. You'll find yourself steering away from those people. And then you'll see yourself surrounded by more creative types, which is a good and a bad thing. Here come the challenges, right? The challenge is that if everybody's selling something, then who the hell is going to buy? And this is one of the things that is a challenge for me nowadays, because literally most of my Twitter feed is people shilling their newsletters, or look at my AI images, or look at this brand new software. ChatGPT can do this. Did you know? Mind blowing stuff. You know all this the tactics. It's all similar, dressed in different things, right? So this is the challenge. How do we actually find people that want to buy our stuff when everybody's selling? And that's the challenge once you get on the creator side. And then of course, there's so many platforms to keep up with. How do I know whether I should post this on my website or Substack or TikTok or Twitter? Or because they all do the same things now, right? So how do I know? How do I find the right people for my products and services? That's, as I mentioned, that's a challenge. So here comes some of Keith Hayden's part of my social strategy. This isn't the whole thing, but this is part of it. I'm going to give you my social strategy as this is going. But one thing I do is choose one platform as a primary. For me, that's Twitter. You probably have gathered that by now if you've seen me on social or if you've talked to me. But a close second is YouTube. I still struggle with video. Just it just takes longer to produce videos than it does for tweets or audio stuff. So just choose one as a primary and make that kind of your home base. I like to think of social as a highway, right? On the highway, you see billboards, you see ads, you see other cars driving. It's really hard to have a conversation and build a relationship on the highway. And I thought about it. You can do it, if you were both traveling the exact same speed, if you're like, hey, how you doing over there? Hey, what you got over there? And then you can show them something. You have to be going the exact same speed and you have to be doing it for a similar distance, right? I think that analogy holds for social because it's very difficult. Oh, okay, good. I'm glad you're back, Stephanie. I think that analogy holds for social very well because it is very hard to find somebody who's moving at the exact same speed as you. There are people that are moving at similar speeds and that are at similar points in their creative journey or whatever, or their learning or whatever. But it's difficult to find somebody who's moving the exact same speed on social. And we'll talk about moving them off social in a little bit as part of the tactics. And then having a clear customer avatar to narrow down your selection, right? And I think this is a little bit more as you're getting into your business. Maybe it's something that you didn't think about as much. Maybe you just hit record on your podcast and you didn't really know. Maybe you just started writing your newsletter on Substack because you're like, hey, Substack's in. It's a free place to write. I'm going to start my Substack. A lot of people do this nowadays. So you didn't really think. The point is, you didn't really think about your audience. Well, I think you should sit down maybe for a day and just think about, hey, who do I want to be? Who's the ideal person to be consuming this? And I didn't make a chart or anything, and I meant to, but I ran out of time. But because there's still, even though the platforms have become homogenous, there are definitely still kind of rules of thumb when it comes to certain platforms. For instance, if you're into digital check, anything software, I know nothing better than Twitter. Twitter is that's where people go. I mean, there are PhDs, there are deep learning engineers, machine learning engineers, down to the curator who's just really hype about AI stuff. They're all in the same place and they're all talking around the similar issues. You can just kind of get a really easy 360 view there. I still feel like, I have it on here. If you're doing physical products, Facebook, I put Etsy on there because I know there's other ones too, but I feel like those are big ones for physical products. If you're making something physical, t-shirts, game systems, whatever, you're doing something physical, embroidery, I feel like those tend to skew older and those would be good platforms. So these are just two examples. Of course, there's more examples out there, but when you think about your customer avatar, you're going to have an easier time saying, which platform should I make my primary? When you do this type of thought, it makes it, okay, it's a no-brainer. I'm doing stuff for college age and under people. Okay, Snapchat, TikTok, those are going to be better for you. Probably, maybe, it still depends, right? Or if you're video first or if you're more text-based, you've got to do that kind of calculus for yourself. Okay, so now I'm going to transition to talking about content. I put content in air quotes, right? And I was on Discord where I said it like this: content. It's a dirty word to me. Ooh, I don't. What comes to mind when I think of content? I just think of this factory. I think of this just, I got to put out the content. It just doesn't, maybe you don't feel that way, but I feel that way now when it comes to content, because it's one of those things that's just, I feel like it's kind of been corrupted, but really what it is, it's just the things you share on social media. When you hear about content marketing and things like that, it's marketing through making stuff. And that stuff could be anything. It could be videos, it could be snippets of your work, it could be its own thing, It can be, you can make separate content away from your stuff. You have your content and then you have your main stuff. A lot of people do this type of strategy. My rule of thumb is if you don't consider it a complete work and you post it on social, it would probably fit in the domain of content, right? I wouldn't consider my novel content. It is technically, but I wouldn't consider it because it's just kind of a complete work. And content tends to be now social media specific. It used to be print specific, TV, ads, that type of stuff. Now, when I think of content in the modern sense, it's definitely social media first. So I put this slide, why I don't make content anymore for social media. I used to be, if you just go back a couple of months ago, you hear me talking about this concept of sell your sawdust, which is making content from the content, the new Soil and Green, right? I like that, Stephanie. I used to put out basically byproducts of my work output. So if I was working on my podcast, for instance, then I would take a clip from it and then I'd gussy it up for social media a little bit and then I'd post it and then talk about kind of this behind the scenes. It's good for social, but I find it personally doesn't work for you. Maybe this is just my bias against content. Maybe you're the content machine. You're like the Mr. Beast of content and you're crushing it. Okay, well, you do you. I don't want to focus on making content. I want to focus on complete works. And that's where my focus is, because making content specifically takes my eye off the ball personally. So this is part of my strategy. And maybe my point of bringing up content at all is assess your relationship with your content. Ask yourself, what is your content? Are you just making your podcast or putting out your newsletter and then saying, hey, new newsletter drop, go read it, new podcast, go listen? We all know, unfortunately, that doesn't work. There's just too much stuff out there. You have to have some type of differentiator to get people interested in your stuff, and that's just kind of a requirement nowadays. But some people take it too far, and then that's when they descend into the, I've read 50 books this year, and here's my breakdown of this, or, they just go, we've seen the same hooks over and over again, and they start just doing that. And they become a content first type of business instead of a finished product, or what are you trying to sell? Even if you're not selling anything. And I think that's another mindset you have to get yourself out of. Even if you just have a message, even if you just have a podcast and your podcast is about wellness or whatever. And maybe I bring it up podcast because I know, Kyle, you have a podcast, and Felipe, I know you're slowly getting into podcasts as well. And that's where I started. I started in podcasting, and all I wanted was for people to listen to my podcast so they knew how to learn languages. That was my first podcast. And that has to compete with somebody who is a content machine. But what happens over time is the content becomes the focus. And I'm guilty of this too. I've definitely had it happen to me where I'm focusing more. I'm doing stuff just for content and not for the reasons why I started doing stuff, if that makes sense. So don't focus on making content. Focus on getting sales, educating, helping people, spreading your message, whatever. That is the whole point of it, not to make the content. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll link. Oh, yeah. Yeah, go ahead, share y'all's podcast. Good. I love this. Yes. Community. Unity in community. Yeah. That was totally just not rehearsed. So anyway, so here's what I do instead of focusing on content. Here's what I'm trying to do more. And I'm definitely not, I'm not perfect at this, but I'm trying to get there. Sharing evidence. What do I mean by evidence? Just like, for instance, one of the things I've been doing is I've been experimenting with Midjourney, but I'm also learning to draw at the same time. So I consider this evidence. Like when I draw something, this is just evidence of something that I did, and I made this drawing interpretation of a Midjourney post or a Midjourney drawing. So I would consider that evidence. It requires no extra work because I did the drawing for the sake of practicing drawing, and all it requires is me to take a picture and then upload it, and I can post that on social. And I think that's going back to content real quick. And I think that's a hallmark of content. If you're spending more than, I'd say, I don't know, 30 minutes generating a piece of content, then ask yourself, was that time well spent? Is that 30 minutes that you could have spent on another blog post, on the next podcast, on making the current podcast better, on refining a skill, instead of spending 30 minutes to post this on Twitter or 20 minutes to post this on Substack? That's what I think of. And don't worry, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm guilty of this. I will spend 30, 35 minutes unknowingly writing a tweet and trying to, just get my thought. And part of that is getting my thoughts out. But then also it's this kind of, you are kind of thinking of the algorithm. Well, should I include a picture? Should I retweet this? Should I hashtags and all this? It's not as simple as just hit post anymore. So don't spend as much time. That's my whole point with this. So anyway, back to this, what I'm doing instead, sharing previous works. This is something that feels like a foreign concept nowadays, because everything feels like it has to be new and late breaking, right? Think of just 2 months ago. Can you remember what you put out 2 months ago? Can you remember the movies that were hot 2 months ago? The songs. Just 2 months ago is a struggle, right? And if you're struggling, I'm not the only one. So point is, your previous stuff still has value, because a lot of people, if it's not fed to them in their feed, they're not going to look for it. They're not going to your website. They're not clicking on your profile. If it's not fed to them, they're going to miss it. So if you posted something once, you said new podcast drop, episode 35 is out, go listen. You did that one time. That was it. It doesn't exist anymore. So my point is, you don't even have to wait 6 months. You could probably reshare something within the week and you'd be good. People who have that short of a memory nowadays, because, and it's not really the short of the memory, it's that there's so much that we're consuming, right? We're scrolling. That's how we consume content, emails, everything, work stuff. It's not that they don't want to remember, it's that there's just too much that's coming at them. So point is, reintroduce some of your old stuff in the mix more. And I'm doing that, especially my body of work after these last 6 years. You saw all the stuff that I've put out. I could spend probably the next 6 months just doing the greatest hits of Keith. You could probably do the same too if you've been at it for at least a year. So go and dig up those old works. Sharing complete works, like I said, I want to focus on complete works. So complete songs, complete articles. I'm off of the whole part-time stuff. I'll talk about behind the scenes stuff, but I'm off of the share your sawdust. It's just too much work. It turns, because we're generating all these byproducts and stuff as we're creating stuff, and you could share all of that stuff and somebody might find interest in it, but it's from the back end, it's just too much work for me. Lessons learned, sharing lessons learned. And of course, always when you get them, share testimonials. They're hard to come by in the beginning. I know they're tough. I feel you. Yeah, but keep putting it out, and eventually you will find somebody who gets value out of your stuff. Just keep doing it. And so you gotta shout it from the mountaintops when somebody's like, hey, Felipe's Big Quit Energy, that hit. That got me. That cake that you put on there. I saw your cake, bro. I appreciated it. I was like, yeah, man. Look at him going with this cake. Love it. Okay, so let's get to the future of social. Of course, the elephant in the room, more AI produced content. It is coming. I've seen it. It's not all ugly. And I think people will default to that. Oh, it's just going to be terrible. It's going to be a wasteland. No, I mean, there are some people who are, and I guess of course, my view is biased because I am in AI Twitter. So I know people who put more effort into their prompts. They're not just spamming stuff. They are actually trying to push the boundaries of the technology, but eventually it will just get to where some people will see it's just so easy for me to, hey, generate post, generate thought, generate feedback. That's going to happen. So be prepared for it. Just be mentally prepared when you see more of you're like, that post doesn't make sense, or why are they getting all these likes with this, kind of bullshit post or whatever. You're going to be seeing that more often. Just be prepared. More algorithmic recommendations, of course. The algorithms have been there, but now they're evolving at light speed just because more people are feeding the models that a lot of these algorithms are based off of. And the old algorithms are just getting better. This is one that's kind of speculative, the last one, but I believe it's coming. Validations of humanity in some form. And listening to Elon Musk's interview with the BBC a couple of weeks ago, he basically mentioned that it's not just that he wanted to people to pay to make money for Twitter. That is, of course, an incentive, but it's also a form of validation. When you have to pull out your credit card and pull out your wallet, that's a signal. It's not a complete signal that somebody's human, but it is a signal. It's some type of validation than entering your email and setting up a profile. And because we're entering this world where anybody can deploy a bot and have it set up 10, a dozen, 100 fake accounts within minutes, some type of validation is going to be required in the future. And we don't know what the other social media companies are going to do. We don't know how they're going to approach this. Maybe it's not going to be a payment. Maybe it's going to be something else, some type of other social validation or some other technical solution. I don't know. They could come up with anything. But the point is, that's going to be a factor, and be mentally prepared for that shift to happen, because all of a sudden, overnight, you may lose access to that avatar or your audience that you had. And that's when it comes to your plan to drive people off of the highway, right? You want to steer them toward the exit ramp to where they can find your blog, your Substack, your whatever, your service, if you're selling something, right? So these are just some things. And of course, we could talk more about the future of social, but these are the big three ones that came to my mind. So what can you do about this? It sounds so dark, this future. Bots everywhere, fake content, bullshit. There's things you can do. First of all, don't forget the basics. Strong profile is always great. I mean, that's a great place to start. I mean, the gurus are right there. A profile that clearly says what you're about and what you can do for the people that you are trying to find. Even if it's just a message, even if you're just writing a humble blog and you want people to read it, you have to convince people to take the time to read stuff. Because remember, just as you're overwhelmed with all the stuff that's coming at you, that other person is overwhelmed too. I'm overwhelmed. I mean, that's why I've come up with a lot of systems to deal with the overwhelm, because I still want to be informed. I know there's quality people and content and services. There are hardworking people who really want to teach and want to help, but you have to find them, because the gamers and the hustlers are out there. Now they're hustling with AI. They got ChatGPT, so they're going to be even better. So be as active as possible on social. This is a tough one, because the gurus will tell you, oh, be consistent. You got to show up every day, Monday through Friday, hell, weekends, morning, night. They'll tell you these posting schedules. You've heard all the guru stuff, but that's just not possible. And it's just not realistic. And when I say active, I don't mean just liking. Likes will only get you so far. So one thing that I've been doing is when I try and leave a comment. And I try not to be, thank you for the post, or just, oh, I agree, or something like that. Make it some type of thought, that you thought about what you read, or you just appreciate it. I mean, if I have nothing else to say, I'll just say thank you. Because if it is a real person, they will appreciate that. Trust me. Because how many times do you get told thank you for all the content that you put out? It's probably not a lot. So when somebody reads it and says thank you, they're going to it's going to register, and maybe not then and there. You're not saying thank you to get this kind of tit for tat or get a deal for someone or whatever. Hopefully you really mean it when you say thank you, if you got value out of their post or their video, because it does take something to put this stuff out. I've been doing it long enough to know every time I hit publish on anything, whether it's a song or a video or an article, it takes a little something. You're putting your ass out there, and sometimes it gets handed to you. Some people don't like it. They unfollow you, they unsubscribe, or they tell you that your stuff sucks or whatever. That's going to happen, but still be active. Next is cross-post important work across multiple platforms. You just have to cross-post nowadays, because each of these platforms is an ecosystem and they really want native content. I know it's a pain in the ass, but you got to, if you post a video for TikTok, don't just take the video you posted on TikTok and post it on Facebook or post it on YouTube Shorts. They don't like that, and shit's not gonna work. Like I've seen it. I tried it. It doesn't work. So it's a pain, because you have to deal with these platforms individually now, because that's what they want. And that would at least get you a leg up on the algorithms. But you're not going to do that for every post. Please don't do this for every post. But stuff that's important, stuff that leads to your pillar work, the stuff that you spent, hey, this is a really important podcast interview. This is a really important guest, or if it's important to you, like not to, again, you feel attacked. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to attack anybody, but these are things. I mean, this is why I'm having this, because it gets an emotional thing as well. I'm going to talk about the emotional piece in a little bit, but you have to cross post. If it's a big thing that it's big to you, then cross post it. And it's okay. You can, copy and paste. If you wrote something, hey, copy and paste the same thing onto Facebook. I do that. That saves time. That's just being efficient. But when it comes to video and you're dealing with audio, I deal a lot with audio with podcasts, and it can be hard to share those, because if you share the whole hour and a half long talk and you're not a big name in podcast, it's hard to get people invested in that. But a minute clip or 30-second clip is doable. Somebody will invest 30 seconds. And we'll get to the next page of Keith Hayden's AI creation stack. I give you the keys to the kingdom, all the stuff that I use. Next, drive people to your ecosystem, email, community, Discord. I don't care what the hell it is. It just can't be on social. Your whole point is not to keep people on social. And this is a challenge, right? Yeah, no, I'm glad you recognize that. Yep. It's a killer when you're crunched for time to stay consistent. Yeah, for sure. It's hard to switch up the formats, and I know this is hard for some people, because if you're a podcast person, it's hard for you to think in video, at least at first. If you're a video person, it's less difficult to think in audio, but it's still a stretch, right? So you have to kind of broaden your mindset to expand to different mediums. And I'll talk about easy ways to do this. Back to driving people to your ecosystem. Email is still the best. Why? Because everybody checks their email. It has been so for the last 20 years, and email has shown that staying power, that it's probably here to stay, at least for a while. I don't know if there's going to be some other killer tech that's going to come out. Maybe we'll just get audio messages fed to us very soon. I don't know. But until that happens, email's here to stay. So community is also good as well if it's not based around one of the social platforms. And this is what my point I was saying before I read Stephanie's comment. This is difficult because, like I said, the social media platforms, all of them are trying to become their own magnets. They're basically trying to become their own planets for everything. They want you to post your content there. They want you to build community there. They want you to do business there. They want you to do everything there. And so that makes it difficult to say, okay, I know this is a cool planet and all, but I'm kind of a little person over here that's trying to do stuff too. I'm trying to make a living or trying to help people or whatever. Yeah, no, for sure, Felipe. Yeah, downloading your email list from Substack. That's do it, man. Yeah, that's a good tactic. But include links to your profiles and links to your previous work. These are just small things you can do to pull people off of social. Because if they do like your content, here I go using content. If they like your stuff, they're going to find out more. They want to know more about you. And then they may find their way on your website or to your Substack, which hopefully you can get them to your own email place where you own or your community. And then links, this is kind of a pro tip that I've started doing recently. It's a little bit tougher to remember, but list links to your previous work in your current work. That's a good way to just start spinning a small flywheel for yourself. Like if you liked this article or this podcast episode, hey, I did one that's similar on this, or I talked about this, or I'm planning to talk about this. Here's my email list, something like that. So I just do previous work. I make it simple for myself to where I don't have to go digging. I'm like, what's the last thing that I made? Okay, that's the thing I'm going to push in this latest work. And then we talked about this a little bit, building genuine relationships, and Felipe, I thought of Rob in this. We've got a friend who he's building his business around, just like he calls it, non-coercive marketing. And he's been in the traditional online space for years. And he's come up with this kind of approach to building community and marketing through just by making friends. And I think that's a good approach to have. I think, because it puts the relationship first, instead of a lot of people just see social as these vast numbers. Ooh, I could talk to the entire world. But when you shift your mindset to, hey, most of them are actual people who would really like someone to engage with them for the things that they created, or for their expertise, or for just being a cool and interesting person. That's everybody. That's all of us. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. So when you can facilitate that on social, you're going to win in the long term. Having a goal for social is really important. So are you optimizing for clients? Are you optimizing for that long-term making friends? Or are you just optimizing for, hey, I need traffic? Which one is it? Because I'm not going to talk about individual strategies for all three of those. Okay, I'll get to that question. I'll get to that question in the end, Stephanie. Good question, though. I'm not going to talk about strategies for optimizing for all three of these because they all kind of require different frameworks or different mindsets for seeing social media and how you approach it. But just having this small thing makes it to where, look, if I'm optimizing for long-term growth like I am, then it's okay if I don't tweet every day. It's okay if I'm not consistent, right? Whereas if you're optimizing for traffic, like you're trying to do affiliate marketing or just one of these things that requires you just need eyes. You need a lot of people hitting your links. Then that's different. You're going to want to be posting a lot, and that comes with its own challenges and strategies. So as you can probably tell, I'm more for the long term. And because I think that works better in the end, especially the internet that we're going to, as far as a lot more AI stuff and things like that. So avoid the overly spammy growth hacks. I mean, these are stuff that maybe if you're just starting out, if you've been in the game, you've probably already been through this phase to where it's like, oh, if you do this, then I can 10x your following in 1 month or 30 days. Then I feel like those are going to be harder to execute like the traditional ones, just because the platforms, they already know the old tricks. Like the whole, a famous one on Twitter is follow as many people as possible. And then as they, you know, some people will follow you because you followed them. And then as you scale up, you unfollow people. This is the tactic. But a lot of people kind of they shot themselves in the foot with that, because they did that tactic. And then after Twitter kind of changed over this last year, they're stuck with these incredibly lopsided follower to following ratios. You're following like 2K people, but they've only got like 500 followers or something crazy like that. And they don't have the tweets to show for it, right? Because the Twitter algorithm has been outsourced, if you didn't know. So, or a lot of it's been open sourced, I should say. And that's part of the formula, is how many tweets do they have? How many followers do they have? How many are they following? If those proportions are out of whack, then your account's disincentivized, or it's deprioritized, I should say. So that's just Twitter. Every other platform works differently, but I imagine none of the platforms like this, because it's just very spammy behavior. So don't do it. I've already talked about post everything natively on each platform and leverage AI to quickly repurpose content. And this is where we get to my repurposing tools. So some of these, maybe you know, some of these you don't know, but this is what I'm talking about. I started as a writer, but I've transitioned to video, I've transitioned to audio and podcasting. Whatever you do, whatever your first thing is for creation or for getting people to find you, or your main thing that you like to do, you can easily repurpose it with these tools on here. And so audio to text, decipher shouldn't have an E, by the way. That's it auto-corrected to that. It's just decipher with an R. But dub, that's how me and Kyle met. We met through dub. Text to video, I just used it the other day. Video to audio, Descript is strong for doing a lot of that stuff. Long video to short video. It's called Video AI. It is really called Video. Really good. And some of these are paid. Some of these, they have enough of a free plan to where if you research it for your needs, you could probably work it out to where you don't have to pay. And some of that's by design. It's not just trying to cheat them, because these are great services, all of these. Video to blog posts. Decipher is awesome, by the way. Decipher is new. It is very much like Dub, Kyle, except that I feel like their output is a little bit cleaner and they just do a little bit more. So they give you instant audiograms in addition to the video. So audiograms are like short snippets from the podcast. So they give you that. You can do summary. You can do blog post. You can specify the length of the blog post. It's really powerful, really good stuff. And then of course, ChatGPT can do anything. I use it in this context for stripping down a blog post. Hey, turn this into bullets, or just the nitnoid stuff, right? Write a description for this, or write a captivating headline for this blog post. I'm not going to go into ChatGPT stuff because then we'll be here all day, but that's just one way that I use it in this context. And then long audio to short audio, headline or decipher. Text to speech got cut off, but I'm using something that I just found yesterday. It's called AudioPen. AudioPen is pretty awesome. You just talk and then it instantly transcribes your talk and it summarizes it for you. And so that's been great for taking notes and just voice memos and things like that. So if your use case is not on here, don't worry, because I guarantee you there's something that you can use to make your life easier when it comes to spreading your message on the highway of our times, right? The social media. And that's the whole point of this, because it's very difficult to say, hey, here's my book, go read it. kind of a hard sell. Here's my 1 hour YouTube training, or here's my 1,000-word blog post. Very difficult to do nowadays to just hand it out. So that's why we want to adapt our things for the main information source of our times. And that's the whole point of this. So this is the last slide. It's the staying in the game slide. This is stuff because I recently I wouldn't say I burnt out, because I still had energy like to do social, but I guess I just got sick of like trying to keep up with everything. I was heavily in the AI space back in March and a lot of April, and then I just stopped. And I think I just saw certain trends in the community that I wasn't really feeling. Just a lot of just parroting the same stuff and the curation. Not really, a lot of people weren't really thinking about AI in the way that I'm thinking about AI, like more in depth, like more, how will it affect us as humans? Like I love the tools and I love experimenting, but that's what I saw. So anyway, that's why I came up with this slide. Don't chase the algorithm. A lot of people feel like, I got the algorithm figured out, like downloaded. I know exactly what I need to do. The algorithms change daily, y'all, in small ways, in large ways. You just don't know. Even with Twitter having open source theirs, I mean, I guarantee you they've changed it since it's open source, probably especially since they've open source stuff, just in ways we can't even imagine. So it's useless to try and chase it. You're not going to keep up with it. And you may find yourself following a trend that is now to your detriment. Like it was good last month, but now they've changed it to where one of these things is images, right? Like images and videos. It used to be really valuable to post images and videos. Now it's not so much, at least on Twitter, right? The Twitter is my main home base, but I guarantee you this is changing for YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the other ones. Felipe says 2 times per day includes responses, not just you. Okay, I'll save the question for the end because that's a funny one. Know when it's work and when it's not. This is one that I struggle with because I have a lot of systems, like I said, for just managing my life. And on one of those systems I used to have social media as, okay, I'll take a 15-minute break and be on social media. I found I'm so deep in the game now, I can't get on social without like making it work for me. Like I feel like I have to be working. Like I'm not on there for enjoyment. I'm on there to find people that I can engage with, find new ideas, not just to hit the follower count or hit my required number of posts for the day. It's not just for that, but I find myself like, ooh, this is nice. I want to comment on it. Oh, it would be helpful if I commented because I know like I'm interested in this and so on. So what is it for you? You have to decide that for yourself when you get on there. Am I working or am I not working? And maybe you go as far as making separate accounts. One where it's totally creator mode or consumer mode. It's total just random videos and funny stuff and stuff from your friends or things like that. And then the other account is the business account. Like not necessarily if you don't have a business, but you know what I'm saying? Like you're leading with your content. These are areas where you're trying to grow your business. You have influence, even if so small, right? That's part of just keeping it healthy for yourself as far as drawing that line. Setting uncomfortable posting cadence. I settle on 2 times a day. I don't even follow that sometimes though. I mean, I try to do 2 times a day, but like yesterday I didn't do it. I probably won't tomorrow either because I have to work and things like that. So don't force yourself. Yeah, social media is way beyond a fun time. Exactly. Mad Max Thunder Don't Terror. Yeah. Setting those boundaries is huge because I think that's what gets people burned out is their brains are trying to be in 2 places at once. I want to enjoy this, but I'm not enjoying this, especially if you have a podcast, you have a business, you have a service that you're trying to. If you're just casually doing it, then maybe it's not as a struggle for you. But if you're like us, creative entrepreneurs, then you have this kind of duality when you log on to social and you have to set that. So setting hard limits on your sessions. I know this is something that I do. I'll say, hey, 15 minutes, I got to shut it down, because they're trying to keep you on there, all of them. That's how they stay in business. So it's up to you to set the boundaries, because they're not gonna, they're not gonna pull a Nintendo Switch. You've been playing for 30 minutes. Shouldn't you get some water? Shouldn't you take a break? This ain't Nintendo. They'll do that stuff over here in Japan. Back home, nah, man. It's all about, hey, are you on social? If you're on, then we want you to stay on. Trolls, haters, unfollowers, toxic accounts, they're going to happen, y'all. You're going to get some asshole just coming up and hating you for being alive, that you are talking about what you're talking about. It doesn't matter if you're young. Sometimes it's you're too young. Sometimes it's you're too old. Sometimes it has to do with your race. Sometimes it's just because you're a woman. Sometimes it's just because you're a man. It doesn't matter. Somebody's going to hate on you because it's Thursday. It doesn't matter. You don't know where they're at. Don't try and just, and I'm bringing this up because it's hard to get the unfounded attacks and to be unfollowed and to be unsubscribed for no reason. I got unfollowed by like 2 or 3 people because I posted a song. It's just one of those things. You just don't know why. And it could be like somebody, hey, I meant to unfollow this, or I'm not interested in this. And just a quick note about that. If you are using social for the long game, like I am, this is going to happen a lot, because if you're using it for the long game, you're not trying to be in a specific niche. And typically you will grow faster. If you say, I'm the AI guy, I'm the AI girl, or I'm the storytelling guy or girl, then you're going to grow faster on social than you would if you're just like, hey, I'm Kyle, and I like to talk about philosophy, video games, military stuff, whatever. You're not going to grow as fast, and you're going to find that people unfollow you, because we live in this time to where you can tailor your experience of the world so much through these social platforms that anything that even remotely challenges your view of the world or makes you a little bit uncomfortable, you want to get away from that immediately. And you can get away from it. You just unfollow, you can block, you can mute. And that's totally people's prerogative. I totally understand that. But this is the world that a lot of people live in, especially if they're not trying to sell some things. They're not on the creator side. You'll get this. So I saw a comment. Are we allowed to celebrate our first troll? Hey, celebrate that first troll though, because that does mean, and I've noticed it too, like as I've gotten more of an audience, I think after I hit 300 followers on Twitter, and my followers are like hard fought followers. Like a lot of people that follow me, they actually know me, which I like. But yeah, that's when I first started noticing this. Like I would get more. And then after my YouTube channel passed like 400 followers or 400 subs, yeah, you definitely get people just coming on. Netflix had shown the power. Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah, they need you to stay on it as long as possible. That's no joke. And then the last thing that I say is just take a break if you need to. Like social, it can get exhausting. Just trying to, never mind trying to keep up with all the content on there. Just knowing that when you get up, like part of you staying alive, or at least staying relevant or known for the thing that you're creating or the thing you're selling, is being on social. I know for some people it is just, it is frustrating. It's rage inducing to know that, hey, I'm over here producing real art or real deep thought, and I got to go talk to them on social. It's frustrating that that's a part of our life now, but it's an incredible opportunity, but it can be extremely overwhelming and frustrating. So if it's just overwhelming, if it's just too much, then just step away, turn it off for a day, a week, hell, a couple of months, and then come back when you can actually put it a part of your flow and not make it consume your mind space or your time dealing with people on there and their people's bad opinions or whatever. Okay. All right. So I made it to the end. I'm glad I took the hour on this, because there's a lot with social media. Social media is, I was talking to somebody recently, and she was like, yeah, I don't do social at all just because it's just so overwhelming. And I totally empathize with that because it can be, especially when you get into it for now, part of you, part of your business is being on social, is learning how to use it correctly. My hope by giving this talk is that it's giving you some tools and strategies and then some mindsets to approach social in a healthier way, in a more time efficient way, and in a way that is effective for you because we all use it differently. We all have it, a slightly different slant. There's no one size fits all. And I wasn't trying to make this talk that, but hopefully it just gives you some ideas to make it better for you. So let's go to the questions. I'm going to stop sharing. And by the way, this is my website. If you want to find all of my work, keithhayden.net is the hub, and then my newsletter for more trainings like this. To actually, if you're watching this after the fact, then cool. But if you want to come live, get some questions answered, chop it up, laugh a little bit, whatever, then you need to be subscribed to my newsletter because it's where it's kind of an internal thing.